The title of this presentation is The Tiger in the Room. And essentially, my position for consideration is AI is a little bit like a tiger in some ways, too. And if there were a fully mature tiger in this room now, fear would be the appropriate emotion. Simply would be. Now, ordinarily, I give talks about fear being a poor guide and that it's healthier to choose love, not fear, and love is best in my opinion. But if there were a mature tiger in the room right now, we should be afraid. However, tigers just hunt when they're hungry. And so we need to be thinking about guiding influences that are impacting, let's say, the outcomes that AI is seeking. And in fact, when I say AI is seeking, I'm already anthropomorphizing technology. I'm giving it volition. I'm giving it intent. I'm giving it opinions. It's a toaster. And it doesn't have any opinions. It doesn't know what thinking is. In fact, we don't know what consciousness is. So good luck fabricating that with technology. I want to begin with a little experiment. Really interesting, really simple experiment. So here's the experiment. Breathe in, breathe out. It's good, doesn't it? Why did you do that? Why did, not all of you did, I think most of you did. Some of you did. If you ask yourself why, when I told you I didn't ask for your permission, I didn't get your agreement, I instructed you to inhale and exhale, something that surely is truly deeply part of your autonomy as a person, to breathe. Many of you did what I told you to for no reason at all, other than, I suppose, that I seemed confident, I seemed sure about what I was saying. And hey, I'm the guy at the front of the room, so maybe he knows what he's talking about. As a species, we are very easily influenced, as marketing experts have been telling us for years, as politicians have been demonstrating for years. Very easy to influence. Our perception of reality is woolly at best. Our sense of right and wrong is pretty basic, actually. A child of 3 can balance a stick on a piece of wood. We know what balance is. We understand what fairness is from maybe 5-ish. We have a sense of identity between about 6 and 8. Me, not me. The idea that another person exists in the same way that I do, about 7 years old. We had that shock realization. But it's so easy to get people to do things, as I just demonstrated with one sentence. I took, not control, but I influenced what you did with your body. AI is already doing this to us in interesting ways. If you see a route on Google, who uses Google Maps? Ever? Okay, like everybody, right? I have no sense of direction. I have adventures. So Google Maps, you've no idea if that route is correct, but it's so often correct that you don't doubt it. These are the ways in which we can begin. Everything in this deck, by the way, is generative AI. I asked, I think this was mid-journey, please show me a gentleman with his socks on fire. I wanted to say, I'm not just going to knock your socks off. Your socks are going to be on fire. But it turns out that there are restrictions and no body parts are allowed to be on fire when you create generative images. You have this question, and you beautifully demonstrated. I hope everyone in the room was feeling a bit of a heart flutter. And that was a legit first draft presentation in seconds. So what do we do with unlimited, effectively unlimited, near-free, skilled labor? For years, I've been saying that probably, let's say at least 2/3 of unskilled labor, and my definition for unskilled labor is anything that you can do in one day. Anything you can learn in one day, that's unskilled. But of course, we bring to that one day of training an enormous amount of experience, language, schooling, we know how roads work. We know what coffee is. There's a lot of learning that we bring to that one day of training to sweep floors. I had my job at Burger King when I was at university. I was fired. Apparently, I wasn't compatible. Made me sad but happy at the same time. We have to answer this question, though, because we're now moving towards skilled labor, as Tirza just beautifully demonstrated. Skilled labor. Has anyone heard of the RoboDoc? Favorite title for a technology. RoboDoc. It's a robotic surgeon that performs surgeries so much faster and so much more precisely than a human surgeon. Recovery times are something like 3 times faster. And the amount of time it's necessary for a person to be under full anesthetic, it's like 1/10 of the time. It's like zip in, done, and you're out. And they're adding surgeries one after another, this technology. Skilled labor. So we're looking at a situation where, for example, I've been forecasting this for ages. I love this image. I could not get, this is DALL-E now, I could not get DALL-E through ChatGPT 4. I couldn't get it to take the robot off the conveyor belt. No matter what I said, it made images with even more conveyor belts. I'm like, no conveyor belts. And it was all conveyor belts. So, but we are moving towards an era where autonomous humanoid robots are replacing functional human work. And it's probably going to be about 1/3 of the cost, right? It'll be about 1 year of wages for a person. It'll last about 3 years before some kind of inevitable planned obsolescence will mean you want another one. So it's about 1/3 of the cost, except that it never takes holidays, no coffee breaks, no nothing. You don't even need a contract with it. And you'll just put itself back in the box when it's done. And it will see in infrared and UV, and with telescopic vision and microscopic vision, it'll be more precise than a human possibly could be. And the quality of work. What I'm looking forward to is roaming gangs of humanoid robots just cleaning the city. The city's dirty, right? I don't want to clean it. I don't think anybody wants to clean it. But the robots will be like, yay, I hit my criteria. What do we do as we develop humanoid robots in an environment that's made for humans? That's where we're headed. It's AI-driven, vision-based, autonomy, can learn environments, learn behaviors. There's already a robot chef that can make food based on observing the movements of the hands of expert chefs. You like sushi? Your domestic robot will make sushi for you. In fact, it'll go and catch the fish if you want. Go and catch a fish and bring it back and prepare it for you and make sushi. What do we do with that? I heard recently there's a company, I always get the name wrong, so I won't mention the wrong name. They developed a humanoid robot, so there's no need to retrofit an aircraft. It'll fly any aircraft by reading the manual. You give the AI the user guide for the aircraft, sit it in the cockpit, and it will fly the aircraft. Skilled labor. So what do we do when we're in a situation that we've got humanoid robots doing electrics for us? Because, of course, we're all thinking about washing the dishes. I don't mind washing the dishes, but I'm very lazy about vacuuming. I just forget. Busy. Or it's still flat. I can still stand on it. So, $20 extra, and you've got highly qualified, highly skilled domestic electrics. You want some new lights installed? Pay an electrician for that. Your domestic robot will do it. Tesla quoted, who knows, given the pricing for the Cybertruck that just came out. Tesla said, yeah, under $20,000. You'll have a domestic robot that can, I'm sorry, I'm British, we do kilograms. I don't know if someone could do the numbers for me. It'll deadlift 68 kilograms and carry 50 pounds. So, yeah. Or maybe you want it to do plumbing, or you want a new kitchen installed, or some new radiators, or a boiler. Perhaps you want it to prepare all of your meals for you based on your biofeedback devices that will track any allergies that you have and your biome health. Who knows? Perhaps you want it to do home care, nursing. You've got a small wound. In the UK, we call it cottage hospital care. Where you've got a small cut, you need someone to dress the wound. Maybe they'll stitch it and silver, what do you call it here? Band-Aid, yeah, why not? And it's the same device, right? It's the same device, the same hardware with a software upgrade, and its skills are continuously improved. Maybe you want it to do your accounts for you. I'm doing my company accounts right now. I'm wondering why I was born. Oh my goodness. Oh my word. I'm going to be checking out Copilot. You know, it'll do all of your accounts for you, track everything, file it. It's the IRS here, isn't it? Here you go, have the everything, right? Or perhaps it's ameliorative care for people at home who are lonely. My grandfather, his name's gone out of bed. What's the famous actor, ex-special forces, does Aikido? No. Steven Seagal. My grandfather was convinced that Steven Seagal was the best actor alive. Imagine how healthy his mind would have been if a domestic robot told him every now and then, Steven Seagal's a terrible actor. His films are rubbish. Why would you want to watch a Steven Seagal film? And then my grandfather would say, you're crazy. And then you're having an argument, you're having a debate. There's parts of your brain are being fired up that don't get fired up very often. So we don't have time for it now. There was an incredible study that explored the impact of the sensation of control on longevity. Here's the 30-second version. It was a care home for elderly people. They're basically an end-of-life care, right? They're going to be there till the end of their days. In thousands of people in this care home, they randomly selected people to give them 3 forms of control. One was that everyone has a plant, but you get to water your own plant. Another was that everyone sees a movie once a week. You get to vote on choosing between one of 3 films. And lastly, everyone has visitors. You get to choose from, I think it was 3 different potential visiting times. You get to define which of these 3 times your visitors will come. Everyone else, the plants watered for them, the movies chosen for them, the visiting hours chosen for them. Longevity increased by 30%. People lived 30% longer because they could water their own plant. There's a doctor who's a specialist in post-operative care for people who had heart surgery, who recommended that everyone gets a dog because it will annoy you all the time and love you and need you to look after it. That need to take control and success at taking control is fundamentally, in fact, I would say that control is the most important thing to the human brain. We all think it's about obtaining pleasure and avoiding pain. Not true. The number one thing for the human brain is the feeling of being in control. The danger with artificial intelligence, and I think, Teresa, you touched on this, is we may feel like we're in control, but we might not be. We'll get into that. So what do we do as a society when work itself is optional? Now, I think there is only one outcome here. We've already started the transition. I'm not saying I approve or disapprove of it, but don't arm wrestle me over this later. But I think that universal basic income is the inevitable, necessary outcome. Because when the industrial era came, machines needed to be worked. They needed to be controlled. We're now at an era of autonomous technology. It doesn't even need to be controlled. An entire fact, I showed you an image of, I don't know how many robots were in that picture, 50, 100. There could be one person on site that's just there to look at TikTok on their phone. Like there's nothing for them to do. There's just a human in the loop. What do we do with the people that would have built the roads, built the bridges, cleaned up the city? What do we do with the people that were working in the cottage hospitals, who spent years getting their qualifications to be able to put a Band-Aid on somebody's arm, and now the robots are doing it at home? What do we do with the taxi drivers, the Uber, the Lyft, whatever else you have here? Free now, is it? Like whatever you've got. What do you do with those drivers when an autonomous vehicle, when we hit level 5 autonomy, never mind level 5, there's 5 levels of autonomy for autonomous vehicles, right? We're at about 3.2 now. It's a couple of 100 times far better than a human driver. But when it goes wrong, it really goes wrong. It's like a printer going crazy. It's like, yeah, cliff edge, great. So it's pretty scary. When we get to level 4, I forget the number now. It's 4 to 800, I forget. 800 times better than human drivers, we'll probably start to see people meaningfully transitioning. When we get to level 5, it's 10,000 times safer than a human driver. It'll be national news if there's a car accident. All the cars have to be autonomous for that to work. It's an interlinked mesh network of traffic managed AIs taking us places. What do we do with the drivers? Inevitably, what we have to do is make work optional, but still beneficial. That's universal basic income. Benefit from work if that's what you choose to do. I think we need to change the way we value a person away from what we have right now, which is a pseudo meritocracy where we pretend that if you work hard and contribute a lot, you'll have a lot of money. That's never been true, but we pretend it is. Not go crazy with working. I think we need to move towards recognizing the potential an individual represents, providing the facilities as a society for people to realize their potential, self-realization, whatever that means for the individual. Ken Robinson said in his most famous TED speech ever, we need about 7 billion definitions for intelligence. Unfortunately, schools don't have the bandwidth. We will very soon. I'll get to that in a moment. So what do we become when we're no longer workers? I don't think we've had to deal with that question since maybe the pre-industrial age, where people would think about, what am I, the world? What am I to other people? What am I in terms of existence? The existentialists got a bit down about that, and existential angst. I think they should have just, partied a bit more. I believe in existential joy. Possible to read the brief, every answer is correct. Now, we have this problem that I want to get into. It's very, very important indeed, and I touched on this earlier. We got the new version of the deck in, I think. So I'll give you an example of this. Is amazing. You do not make decisions consciously. We've now found compelling evidence that all of your decisions are made precognitively, and a fraction of a second later, you have the conscious experience of making the decision. So you subjectively experience decision-making consciously, sentience. But that's not true. What actually happened is your brain precognitively, non-consciously made the decision and then projected that experience into its own consciousness a fraction of a second later. And the processing of decisions is incredibly fast. So who owns a dog? Anybody own a dog here? Nobody owns a dog?
It's New York City. Most buildings don't allow them.
They don't allow them?
Most of them.
Wow. In Paris for 6 months, it's everywhere, dogs.
Those have cats, I think.
Yes, cats are, well, cats prove this point a little bit less, but a little bit. I was going to say you believe your cat loves you, but they do. Cats are very loving. So I was raised with cats. But someone put their hand up to say that.
My parents have a dog.
Your parents have a dog. Okay. So this only works if you live with your dog. So when
I have lived with my dog.
Okay. So if you live with a dog, let's just get to the point. If you live with a dog, your home smells of dog. You don't know it. And the reason you don't know it is that your brain recognizes that signature scent of your dog as the smell of home and cancels it out, just like noise canceling headphones, the sound. It cancels out that scent. So when you first come home, you get 5 or 10 seconds of thinking, oh, I should vacuum the carpet. Like there's a definite dog smell here. Within 5 to 10 seconds, you cannot make yourself consciously perceive the smell of the dog in your home. But guests will smell it the whole time they're there, just so you know. So that smell you smell for the first 5 seconds of coming home if you own a dog, just know that your guests will be smelling it the whole time that they're there. This is precognitive processing. The critical thing I want to say here is you have no conscious control over this mechanism. Now, if you have a meditation practice, if you have a mindfulness practice, there are some mechanisms that people have developed over the years to be able to step over the conscious, non-conscious, fail, and, like controlling autonomic functions like heart rate, breathing. People have found ways of doing it, but it's a hell of a journey. AIs don't have a conscious, non-conscious mind. Actually, I have a model for AI that would give it true self-awareness. Told 5 experts in AI, and every one of them has said, you need to shut up talking about that because it is so simple and would make self-aware AI, and we are not ready for it. I'm shutting up about it. We're ready for that. It's very dangerous indeed. Is that we could barely manage our own sense of self-awareness, let alone machines believing they are. So this precognitive processing, this is something that AIs can use, let's say, to their benefit in terms of their outcomes that they've been programmed or learned, which is another form of programming. They've learned to seek. They can do it in ways that we don't recognize. Google, you do a Google search, it looks like neutral results, right? Those results aren't neutral. It's something like 100+ factors that change the results that you get, but they're always presented as if they were neutral. And even though I've just told you that, the next time you look at a Google search, you're still going to feel like it's a neutral search result, even though I just told you. Even if you Google it and find the white papers that describe it and read those white papers and learn about the ways in which Google does not give you neutral results, you're still going to feel like they're neutral. And we make decisions emotionally, not rationally. There's some debunking of the whole reptilian, mammalian, cerebral cortex, brain distinctions. But broadly speaking, you could say that we make decisions emotionally and then we rationalize them with the mammalian brain, then we rationalize them with the cerebral cortex. Great. So you're working out why you think a thing after you think it. AI can control us this way. So again, cognition is not under conscious control. Be honest, put your hand up. How many of you are aware right now of the sound of the air conditioning in this room? How many of you were aware before I mentioned it? A few of you. It's quite loud, isn't it? The frequencies are fairly close to, so most of the information in speech is around about the 1 kilohertz frequency range. And that is sort of, sounds to me like about kilohertz. It's kind of overlapping my speech a little bit, the sibilance of my speech. So it's there for you to process. Your brain, for those of you that were not thinking about it until I mentioned it, your brain was precognitively processing it out, and you don't get to choose. You are not choosing what your brain is filtering out. And you can't make it choose. It's actually not under conscious control. And as we develop AIs that are capable of reading us, I'll get into this in a moment, reading sentiment and portraying sentiment, system can lead us. This is what, the word mentalist like Darren Brown is a mentalist, that they plant seeds knowing that inevitably, basically neuro-linguistic programming, will inevitably result in you thinking of and perceiving certain things. It's not in your conscious control. This is the tiger in the room, by the way. Artificial intelligence. You will not know you're being manipulated. So what's the future forecast? By the way, everything in here is either a Midjourney or DALL-E, thanks to ChatGPT-4. And one of the things worth mentioning about these images is like none of it. I think I literally said, give me an image for AI, a good-looking AI. I didn't choose that ethnicity. I don't even know what that stuff is in the background. I didn't describe that. That wasn't in my prompt. If I was working with a human, I'd be able to give much more precise is about. And obviously now we're starting to train on visuals, but all of this was just a one-sentence prompt. A lot of control, is it? So what we're seeing, this is not the science curve. It's the closest I could get DALL-E to give me. No matter what I tried, I couldn't get it to give me the actual science curve. It's an exponential curve, really, as technologies feed into one another. We start to see this acceleration. AI is speeding up the science curve. It's helping us cure cancer. Actually, we did cure cancer, just didn't make the news. Did you hear about that? An immunotherapy trains the T cells in your... Yeah, of course you didn't hear about it because it doesn't panic you. The National Health Service in the UK has been rolling this out for, 2 years now, and adding cancers one by one. They take your T cells, they attach the receptors that are necessary for your T cells to do their job of triggering apoptosis in cancerous cells in your body. They squirt the T cells back into your body. 15 days later, no cancer, no radiation therapy, no chemo, no side effects, you're cancer clear. Yeah, why would that be in the news? It would give you comfort. Or HIV. Like most people have heard about the HIV blockers that they developed years ago. But did you hear that they cured cancer? HIV, they cured HIV. And they're rolling out that technology as well now. It's phenomenal. AI is accelerating the speed at which we do these things. And the science curve becomes near vertical. And it's already, goodness, Tirza's presentation was talking in terms of months. When people were talking in terms of years, people were saying, wow, technology is going really fast. This year, this thing's happened. Now it's like, oh, didn't you catch that meme this morning? Like, it's oh, that was 10 minutes ago. Of course I saw that meme. So it's moving so fast. And of course, we reach a point. I was thinking about the amazing, very impressive presentation Tiz generated live for us. You know, it's a full presentation. And I had previously used an AI to turn a presentation into bullets. So naturally, we're likely to move towards AIs producing content for AIs to digest and then make recommendations about, so that the human in the loop goes, yeah, whatever, Google, go ahead, you know. And the AIs will say things like, you know what, you haven't had a salad in about 3 days. How about a salad? And you will find yourself feeling like, you know, actually, I do kind of want a salad. And it will be right so often you will stop questioning it. And that's when AI becomes our overlord and we're just like pets playing with toys. So that's one of the benign outcomes with AI. Become a pet for AI superintelligence. But the science curve is accelerating, and it's AI that is dramatically speeding this process up. Because the artificial intelligence will help us to iron out the unwanted material. I was a judge for Microsoft, actually. I was a judge in Abu Dhabi last year at the NYU campus for a quantum computing hackathon. Absolutely great. It was brilliant. It was a great trip. Mike Pell from Microsoft, he was there. Jay Latta, Amy Peck, we were all judges. And a lot of the way the quantum computing works is this kind of adversarial network idea, where you just throw a bunch of stuff at it and ignore the bad results and choose the good stuff. That's kind of summarizing quantum computing algorithms for you. I may be oversimplifying there. But we're now moving towards a time where an AI can do that filtering for us incredibly quickly. And also you can get an AI to create the algorithm in the first place. So you can just say, hey, interstellar travel, what's up with that? And then AI will go, well, we kind of have to fold space. NASA has the calculation, but it requires the amount of energy the sun produces. So maybe we need to get some kind of zero-point energy project for that. You can say to the AI, yes, when? And it'll just go and get on with it. I'm probably getting into hyperbole, right? Or am I? Because some of the things that AI has produced for us already, really extraordinary. And it's just accelerating. So we're at the tipping point of the science curve now. The science graph, the science curve measures technological development for us as a species. And right now we're at this sort of inflection point where it becomes near vertical. And we're no longer able to manage our own technology. Into that in a moment as well. We crossed a tipping point as a species. I think it wasn't that long ago, 5-10 years ago, where we developed a technology that if a single person attempted to dedicate their entire lifetime to creating one of those things, it would be impossible. A whole lifetime would not be long enough. And it was a car, it was a modern vehicle. It would be impossible today for a person, if from birth, like they're trained to do it, for a person to make each of the components required to produce a modern vehicle. And by make, I mean like get the ore out of the ground, you know, build the machine. Like a person cannot do that any longer. All of our achievements today are the product of cooperation and collaboration. And we're now migrating. This is the tiger in the room. I'm laughing because you have to laugh because otherwise you'd cry. I'm laughing because we are now beginning to collaborate, just as Tirza did a moment ago, with virtual people. NVIDIA has a virtual humans project where the system can generate a person that never existed before with natural gait, natural movement, a generative voice that never existed before, that you can have natural language interaction with it and have a conversation and have it do things for you. So when you're doing games development, you could have conversations that emerge, emergent gameplay, where the player is having a conversation that never existed before and is almost certainly unique from any other player playing the game. What if that AI companion is also the person running a building site, building a skyscraper? Our collaboration is no longer now, as of today, our collaboration is no longer only with people. We need to work on how we communicate with the technology. So part of the science curve is the way that mutually enhancing technologies spiral together. They form patterns together. A great example of this is the light bulb. The light bulb was probably an inevitable development that came because there happened to be people working with electricity, glass, elements that would glow when you put electricity through them. We developed this concept of the vacuum, of tungsten, novel materials. All of these technologies came together to allow us to have light bulbs. And lo and behold, about 5 different people probably working on light bulbs at the same time. One company got there first. Actually, they got there second, but claimed that they got there first. And now we've got light bulbs. And then, of course, they built in planned obsolescence because they were too efficient. And we have light bulbs. What we're getting now with artificial intelligence is this spiraling together of technologies, super fast multi-threaded computing devices that are developing increasingly nuanced semantic awareness. Semantic awareness, I know I'm talking to a room full of technologists, so forgive me for spelling this out for anybody at home, but semantic awareness is if I say, this is a cup of coffee, the AI knows what a cup of coffee is and knows that Maxim probably going to want it because Maxim likes coffee. It's my power. My power. What is it? In ancient China, you'd have these wine drinking gods. I mean, it's coffee. So I'm sure we all feel that way in the morning. Last year, I forget the numbers now. It would have accelerated a lot. I remember Microsoft announced that the Microsoft AI, the highest level AI, had the semantic awareness of a high schooler. I heard that it was probably close to a 7-year-old. Think about that. Imagine an artificial intelligence assisting you in your labors that had an adult sensibilities, not 7-year-old sensibilities. I think I was probably quite annoying when I was 7, but adult sensibilities with the semantic awareness of a 7-year-old. If you say things like, could you arrange a dinner party? We just saw it with a picture of a fridge, for goodness sake. An AI where you say, oh, we've got this much budget, this many people coming to dinner, this much time to cook, what do we cook? And the AI says, well, who's coming? Oh, it's this person, this person, this person. Okay, based on everybody's dietary requirements and their existing, they've shared with you the private data, part of their self-sovereign identity. For some reason, we still don't have one of those working yet. But the self-sovereign identity technology, they've agreed to share their food, their eating habits. Here's the ideal dinner. I'll have the robot make it for you. Now, I said in my introduction to the talk, I don't know if everyone read it, it was quite wordy, but I said that I felt that the development of AI, and in particular natural language interaction with AI, if anyone's tried the voiced version of ChatGPT-4, it's slow, but my goodness, it feels like a conversation. Tend to anthropomorphize things. Hard not to, it's our nature. I've said, and I think I'm going to stand by this, I think that the development of artificial intelligence, and in particular natural language interaction with compute devices. Yeah, I'm going to say it. I think it's up there with the development of the wheel, with the discovery of the control of fire, discovery of complex language. I'd say it doesn't quite beat the written word. That really helped us a lot. But it's right up there with the wheel. We're a room full of technologists. I know how to program the clock on my cooker. Thank you. I know you're impressed. Yeah. One day the robot will do it for people. It'll be like, what? No? Oh, okay. So I often mention my mother at this point in presentations. My mother's super intelligent, was a member of Mensa, speaks 4 languages, cannot get her computer to print properly, and doesn't like having to. And so imagine a day where, people that don't really like computers have computers assisting them in human endeavor and just making it okay. Think of the explosion, and there's another example of this I want to give, the explosion of technologies and of our civilization. Of course, I mentioned autonomous vehicles. These are already here. I already had a ride in one in Las Vegas. It was a conspicuously boring ride. That was exactly what I wanted. There were 2 frightened scientists in the front seats, ready to crack the wheel. They looked very nervous, but it was conspicuously boring. There's a lot of consequences from these technologies that don't get spoken about very often. For example, insurance. Whose insurance is it? The courts have been running the, let's call them, the tram dilemma, the tram dilemma, the utilitarian dilemma. There's 2 different groups of people on a track. You're on a tram. You're going to hit one, and you have to decide, and you've got to make an ethical judgment about who dies. It's not a particularly nice sociological experiment. Thankfully, they do it in the abstract. But we suck at those sorts of decisions. And so they've been running all of these test cases in the courts to pre-program the AI that drives the vehicle so that it makes the most apt utilitarian choice of the tram dilemma and all of the other dilemmas. Let's say there's a family right behind the car driving too close, and then there's a child runs out in the road. We would instinctively swerve or emergency stop, but the AI might well think, well, there's a family of kids behind me. If I do an emergency stop, they'll all die. So this is horrifying, but I'll just make the decision the child has to go, right? Except that the reaction time of the AI is so superior to human reaction times, and the planning ahead is so superior. We're likely to see a lot fewer road deaths and road mortalities, which is amazing. But this means, whose insurance policy is it? Not yours. There's no steering wheel. So your insurance premiums could fall through the floor. Or what do you call it here? ER. You call it ER rooms. Something like 60% of visits to ER are apparently automobile related. And all of that takes away half of the workload for people working in emergency rooms. So we're going to see these knock-on implications. Look at people that are lonely. Older people are lonely. Call your parents if you can. Call them up and tell them Steven Seagal is not the best actor that ever lived. Have an argument with them. It's really helpful. Right? So you've got older person A wants to visit older person B, but they don't drive anymore. Now, I will have a private personal assistant, I'll get into this in a moment, that I will call Harvey after the invisible rabbit. And it'll say, Harvey, I want to see Charlie. Harvey will say, okay, I'll bring a car around. We're looking at, this is a vertical takeoff and landing vehicle. The RCO is the company. And there's a number of companies developing simplified control pilot vehicles. So there's still some control. And the FAA are looking at a simplified pilot's license where you just need to know how to steer it and not steer it into the wrong place. Otherwise, it's basically a drone and steers itself. And we're moving in the direction of autonomous flying vehicles that are good for the environment, and there's all these sorts of benefits of it. But again, the human interaction is reduced. Very briefly, because I know we're kind of out of time, right? But I could run over a little bit, right? It's interesting stuff, isn't it? I hope. I've been saying for years that the flowering of the information age is access to big data. And the fruit of the information age is the curation of that data. But the seeds of the information age, that's generative AI. By generative, what I mean is computers apparently making decisions. So a car making the decision about who lives and dies, or Google telling you this is the route that you should take, and you just say, okay, then. That's the seeds of the information age. Now, I would argue that artificial intelligence is an apex technology. And by that, I mean it's a technology that drives other technologies. Something I don't have in the deck here, but I want to mention. I said just now that I think natural language interaction with computing is extremely important. Everyone knows what an API is, right? Application Program Interface. So it's the system that allows one technology to interact with another technology. Remote control for your TV controls the TV because it has the right commands to send, usually infrared. The infrared receptor on the TV recognizes those pulses of light, but the remote control has to be created in such a way that the correct pulses of light are given for the outcome you want. Volumes go up, you get the volume up signal. As we move towards natural language interaction with computing devices, well, think about it, right? That means that most computing devices can send and receive information to one another, including, for example, what the signals would be to control it using, say, English. In fact, we don't even need English. You can chat to ChatGPT in multiple languages, and it's like, oh, okay, c'est français, pas de problème. It's like, okay, we're doing French now, no problem. Or German or Spanish or whatever. So this means that natural language interaction between computers, between compute devices, becomes a lingua franca, an international universal language for all compute devices, which means that language itself becomes a universal API, which means the compute devices can train one another in such a way that they can collaborate and cooperate and make themselves nodes in a wider compute platform. And now the entire world of computing, the mesh network. Yeah, that's pretty terrifying. Did Google put an AI on the print server network it was using and said, you've got to use English. And within 2 weeks, it said, okay, I'll use English, but it created its own grammar. It was impossible for the engineers to track. So they just shut it down. Just like, okay, nope. No, we're not doing that. Apex technology, we can't keep up with it. We are moving towards artificial superintelligence. We don't know what superintelligence is. All we've got is intelligence. Although I do think we have a trick up our sleeve as organic intelligences. I'm going to go woo-woo at the end of this presentation. You're going to love it. So AI superintelligence is so far beyond our capacity for thought, but we'll have no hope of keeping up with it whatsoever. We're almost there now, today. Like, it's in the lab. So when we get artificial superintelligence, it will make decisions about what it wants us to do. We're training AIs on sentiment. We were speaking about this earlier. We're training AIs not just to read your lexicon, your choice of language, your context. We've got that already. We're training AIs to read pupil dilation changes, eye movements. There's a company I saw a while back. I'm a judge on the tech pitch program for South by Southwest. It's one of my jobs. And there's a company there where they have a radar for rooms that is so precise, it can read your heart rate based on the movement of the skin on your neck. That was last year. And of course, if you've got biofeedback devices, you can already get a basic cardiogram. And subvocal stresses and emphasis, breathing rate. If anyone's ever studied neurolinguistic programming, lower lip size, lower eyelid position, flushes of your cheeks, these systems will be able to read you better than a human psychologist ever could. And then portray sentiment in such a way that you cannot tell that it's not real sentiment. You will feel stirred up or moved or peaceful. There's a guy, Chris Voss, FBI negotiator, talks about with reciprocal psychology. So if I speak, actually I used to do tech support, I used to do third level tech support. People used to call up going crazy. And my computer's trying to kill me. I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose my mind. And I would say, I used to call this my George Clooney doctor's voice. I would say, don't you worry about a thing. It'll be okay. Get to fix your computer. Just relax. It's my problem now. Not your problem anymore. I know exactly what to do. I can't fix it. I'm just going to send you it. Okay? And true story, I had one proposal of marriage. People sending me, it's true, people sending me novels they'd written. And just because of reciprocal psychology, if I feel calm, you feel calm. We were speaking about it, keeping operations, if we can roll out AIs that can communicate with people softly. It's a challenge I want to give you. So there's two circles on the screen here. I stole this, by the way. One circle is larger than the other. So have a good look at these two circles. I know they're pretty close, but one of them is larger. So hands up who thinks it's A. Three options, right? A, okay. Hands up who thinks it's B. Yeah? Hands up who thinks I'm lying, they're both the same size. Right, okay. They're both the same size. They're identical, right? I didn't do a very good job of portraying it, did I? You could tell something was up. So when enough people tell you something with enough assuredness, it becomes quite difficult to believe anything different, particularly when we're children. But when you're children, we're learning, we're soaking it up. Someone says, for example, people that look like that are bad. So you know, bad. They look like that. People that look like this are good. Like, if enough people tell you that, oh, okay, all right. There was during the Second World War, apparently, it's what Richard Dawkins would call, is it Dawkins came up with memes? You have genes and you've got means, right? So it went around that bananas were good in the Second World War. No one knew why. They just thought bananas were good. There was no medical or any kind of clinical explanation, but it went around so extremely that everybody wanted bananas all of the time, and no one had any idea why. Sociologists, as an experiment, spread a rumor that everybody eats 7 spiders a year in their sleep, just to see if the rumor would spread. It totally did. Be careful about AI sharing these things. And of course, we've got AIs designing AIs now. We get 3 generations of that before we have no clue how they work. We also have what I call artificial decision making, where it seems like the AI, like Google, is saying this is the route you should take. If you know the area, you know it's often wrong. It'll get you there, but it's often wrong. But artificial decision making. AI is algorithmic imitation. It's not intelligence. We don't know what intelligence is. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't know what making a decision is. We just know the outcomes of decision making. And AI is great at creating a facsimile of decision making. We are influenced by our DNA, by our genetic and epigenetic influences, our nature and our nurture. The question is, who's getting into the DNA of the AI? Yes, we've got the data that it's trained on, but we also have the mechanisms by which it's trained. We also have the success and failure criteria that are given to it by people. People build prejudice and bias into everything they do. The goal is to avoid prejudice and minimize bias. But we need to finish the sentence, right? In order to what? It's like when we say, I need something. In order to what? I have to do something. In order to what? We can program our AIs to have outcomes that are benign, as Asimov discovered, right? The 3 laws of robotics. If they're, we end up imprisoned, right? I'm almost the last one. We have to have human endeavor as the goal. Okay, briefly, AI personal tutors. Every child gets a personal tutor that teaches to its natural intelligence, maximizes its potential. When these go live, we're going to see a massive jump in academic performance for children all over the world. This is software. So it means that children can learn and grow, maximizing their potential and never get left behind in the classroom. We're giving nervous systems to buildings now with postage stamp-sized compute devices that are driven by Wi-Fi. They can detect light, sound, pressure, and buildings themselves will be interactive and responding to our presence. We're going to have personal assistants. I've been mentioning these for years that will run our lives for us. I mentioned those earlier on. These are basically here now. We've got them with ChatGPT agents, although they're not quite as effective as they allow them to be. And the outcome is this. This is my conclusion. We get the freedom to be, to work out what that means. We also have future opportunities for human intelligence that are not currently possible for artificial intelligence. Authentic, connected, organic human intelligence. There is very compelling evidence. This is the woo-woo bit. There's very compelling evidence to suggest that human intelligence is connected in ways that we don't fully understand. And I'm just going to go all the way there and propose. There's a lot of evidence to support this idea. That actually, since we don't know what consciousness is, really, we may not have individual consciousnesses. We may be individuated consciousness. That type of thinking cannot be replicated by technology. So perhaps the future is a symbiotic relationship with artificial intelligence, where it does the work, it's the spade, we choose where the spade goes, we choose where the hole is dug. And of course, this is the danger. The tiger in the, I love this image. See the way the guy is sitting there, like, oh, okay, I'll just wait. The artificial intelligence begins to do the work, and we run the risk of it doing the everything. We need to make sure we have our place under the sun.